them. That I don't understand. Look, this is a problem that good cops have too. Like I said, I know a number of people, men and women, who are officers of the law, if you will, at various levels of government. And many of them have expressed this over the years. This concern, they can't get rid of a bad cop. They have concerns. Well, look, I know at least two officers who say they know a particular cop that's gone bad. I'm not going to say where, but they've expressed that it's been near impossible to get rid of this guy. So, it goes without saying that this has been happening it goes all the way. It's always been, ever since we've had so-called police officers, no matter what you've called them. The ancient Rome, they were called prefects, right? Yeah, you've always had corruption. The problem is that we've gotten into this modern era that told us, well, there's hardly any corruption in policing, hardly any, and we see that hardly any is actually quite a bit. It's quite a lot, and we wouldn't know this unless a lot of this stuff came to light with really came to the forefront, came to the public's mind with O.J. Simpson's murder trial, his first trial. I know some of you are saying, "Oh, OJ's guilty. He did it." Yeah, he may have been involved. He didn't. If he did it, he didn't do it by himself. It's just it was physically impossible unless Ron Goldman was just actually a total, complete wimpola. I mean, the guy, he was not a little guy. He didn't do it by himself, and I find it hard to believe that one person actually took down Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown Simpson. I'm just not buying it. That guy was too big, and she's not quiet. You're not going to be quiet when somebody's, trying to kill you. If there's only one person. Their throats weren't slashed. They were stabbed. By the way. And a lot of information came out at that trial that put, the LAPD, put them on trial too because of some questionable tactics that they used. Look, if you think some of the detectives retired after that case simply because they were upset that Simpson got to go. No, they were not upset that Simpson got to go free. They were basically given a choice. Look, either you get out and retire, or you could lose everything. Lose your retirement benefits and blah, all that kind of stuff. So some of them got out. Mostly because some of them that got out knew that they had screwed up. You see, it isn't. Look, how many times have we heard about police planting evidence? It's an all too common scenario. How many times have we heard about police just harassing people? Again, it's an all too common scenario. Now, why do I bring this up? Not because I hate the police. Like I said, I've got friends who have been in various levels of policing and are still in various levels of policing. And I have no issues with the cops. I like cops. I've worked with cops. I have no issues with them. I do have issues with the bad ones. I do have issues with those who are power hungry. And I do have issues with those who are too young to have a badge. And I'm speaking mentally here, not necessarily physically or chronologically. I'm still under the impression that unless you have military service, if you're under the age of 25, you should not be given a badge and a gun. I am sorry. It is very difficult for the public to respect and honor a 21-year-old kid simply because he's got a gun and a badge. And that 21-year-old kid, because he's got a gun and a badge, has got a chip on his shoulder to force everybody to bend to his will. I've seen it time and time again personally. It's not a good idea to give somebody that young, that mentally, look, you're not even allowed to, now they don't even want you to have cigarettes until you're at least 21. So, but you're old enough, I guess, to be a cop. Now, how does that jive? You mean a 20-year-old cop, but you can't smoke or drink. Somehow that doesn't make any sense. Policing takes very level-headed, mature people, as well as people being innately honest. And a lot of times we get police officers, male and female, even if they're 30. They're not mentally mature. Those are the kind of police officers you do not want on the streets. You know, I love the cop that'll get out of his car, help somebody change their tires. That's public service. We don't pay homage to those kind of police officers very much. I love the idea of cops getting out and throwing the football with kids in the street or playing a game of basketball. You know, although the hierarchy sometimes doesn't appreciate that, and more than one occasion where a police officer has been caught doing something good on tape and on camera, you know, playing with kids or throwing the football a couple of times or throwing a couple of hoops, they've been suspended or fired. Now, see, that comes down from the top. Yes, cops, you can have bad cops who are not just patrol officers, but you can have bad cops who are detectives. You can have bad cops who are chiefs of police or police commissioners. They can get to the top just like anybody else. And when you have a commissioner, police commissioner, or a chief of police or a sheriff that suspends or fires a cop because he's interacting with the community and getting them to trust him, that's bad leadership. And yes, there have been cops across this where people have taken pictures and posted videos of thinking that they're doing good and spreading good cheer about a police officer doing good community work. And later they find out the cop gets suspended or fired for doing that good community work. But yet it is very difficult to get rid of a bad cop. Using that same sort of video information. How is that possible? How is it possible in these United States of America it's easier to get rid of a good cop than it is to get rid of a bad cop? I'm scratching my head on that one. I really am. I just don't get it. And I bring this up because there's a case that has come to... I don't often see a lot of this stuff, but there's a case that I just noticed that has been around for a few days, evidently. And it's about a black mailman in New York City. And I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, how did this possibly happen? How could this happen? You got a mailman doing his route. In other words, he's a federal employee. He's been, vetted the way mail personnel, postal service people get vetted, but he's been vetted not to a degree that law enforcement officers often are, but he's been vetted. So he's basically considered and construed to be an honest individual. He's out there doing his job that he's done for years, delivering the mail. Evidently what happened was that an unmarked New York City cruiser, possibly driving erratically for whatever reason, nearly hit him. Now this guy, like many people, they express frustration, especially if they're Unmarked car? You don't know. Well, look, I've yelled at marked cruisers before when they've done something stupid in traffic. But this guy, unmarked, probably didn't know it was a cop car. Yelled and screamed at the driver. Now, what happened next has a lot of people scratching their heads. 4 detectives, undercover detectives, approach the mailman while he's got packages to deliver. They approach the mailman and arrest him for disorderly conduct. Now, here's the problem. First of all, you have a right to yell at whomever you want. Second of all, and I guess this has come to light as well, these cops did a number of things that were wrong. And I guess there is now going to be some federal investigatory involvement because they left the mail truck unsecure. You do realize that your mail is federal property until it's delivered to you. They left federal property unsecure. There are procedures that you have to go through when you are detaining a federal employee doing his federal employee job. They followed none of that. And they left the mail truck unattended and unsecure. Now, if this guy were truly a threat, don't you think they'd want to investigate what was in his mail truck? No, they arrested him and threw him in the back of the unmarked cruiser and charged him with disorderly conduct. Well, lo and behold, as this story unfolds, we learn that 3 of the 4 officers involved have a long history within the department, New York City Department of Police, of being accused of civil rights violations and abuse of power. And yet they're still on the street. Three or four of them. And yet you got cops in Chicago and other big cities that get out and throw the football or play basketball in uniform with kids trying to bring some goodwill, and they get suspended or fired post haste. And 3 of these guys have long histories of complaints and of internal affairs investigations, of being in violation of people's civil rights and abuse of power, and they're still on the job. And I got to tell you, this is why many people do not trust or like the police. They can't trust them because they don't know who to trust. They look around and they see the good ones being fired. And they look around and they see the bad ones being promoted. And now we turn to our nation's largest city, New York City, and you've got a group of 4 gang thug members with a badge accosting a federal employee simply because he yelled at them, expressing his frustration for being almost hit by erratic driving. And then not only do they detain and arrest him, but they leave everything that is in his charge that he's responsible for unattained and unsecure. Open for anybody to tamper with, take, do with what they will. I don't know about you, but that's not serving the public. That's not protecting the welfare of the public. Was that mailman a danger to the public by yelling at them? I don't think so. But, hey, if that were anybody else, it'd be awful. But simply because these 4 gentlemen, and one of them, by the way, not one of the 3, with troubles, but the other one evidently is